Hey, what's up, everyone? Jason Delgado here. Uh, man, I was at the game last night at SoFi. Chargers beat the Eagles. What a win, guys! What a win! What a crazy atmosphere to be in. I think it was about 55% Eagles fans, maybe 60. But still a good showing for Charger fans. I was on the side that was mostly Charger fans in there, and man, it's just crazy. Like Jim Harbaugh said last night, Justin Herbert was Superman. Playing with a broken hand. He didn't have the craziest stats, except he led the team in rushing with 66 yards, which is insane. On a night with Omari and Hampton back and Vidal playing well. But like a Charger fan said while we were leaving the game, man, my quarterback, man, I can't believe he's stiff arming guys with a broken hand. And it's unbelievable what Herbert is doing right now. You have to put him with the all time quarterbacks. Um, the way he can beat the defending champions with no offensive line, no tackles. He got hit so many he got sacked 7 times, a record 7 times. He got tackled 17 times because he was running so much. Dude is just superhuman. Hats off to the defense. They played lights out. You know, uh, what can you say? That Tony Jefferson coming up with the interception after Cam Hart, diving, stretches his arms out and gets his arm on the football at the end of the game in overtime. And the whole time at the game, because Jalen Hurts kept throwing interceptions. So the whole time I'm yelling, Hurts, interception, Hurts, another interception. Come on, throw another interception. And I was at the end of the game. He pulled through, just like we wanted him to. So many upset Philly fans too, man. You love to see it. It's the same thing with Raiders fans, Steelers fans, Chiefs fans. You love when there's so many of them, and they're so cocky and arrogant. They're like, oh, we got this game. You guys suck. In the bathroom, there was this guy. I was at the urinal, and there was this Eagles fan, and he was cocky as hell, man. Before the game, he's going, "Oh, so what do you think about Herbert? Is he gonna break his hand some more after we get to him? We're gonna hit him so much, we're gonna injure him." And my buddy Josh was at the game with me. He's like, no, we're not worried about that. Herbert's, gonna throw a bunch of touchdowns, and we're gonna kill you guys. So it's funny to see, and there was even an Eagles fan after the game who said, he said to me, I really appreciate you Charger fans. I usually come out to the Rams versus Eagles, and I can't stand those guys. It's like going to a Raiders game. Like the whole time they're chanting "Whose house?" and they're obnoxious. They're getting into fights, and Charger fans are respectful. I gotta say, me and my buddy Josh did go a little crazy when we won. We were we yelled out, "Fly home, Eagles! Fly home!" And my buddy was doing the the waving the arms. It was great. It was great. But Omari and Hampton, man, did he look good in his first game back? The way he could cut, the speed, and he still got the power, that. But what really impressed me was seeing the speed that he had, and the ability to cut, and to make guys miss. That's going to be so huge, guys, going forward. If we get Hampton and Vidal going like they started to against the Eagles, man, we can make a run, because if you can beat the defending champion Eagles, you can do something. And I just want to show you guys the celebration from last night. I gotta show you guys the final play. It was pandemonium, man. This excitement. You love to see it. And I saw Eagles fans laughing about that fly home Eagles thing. Man, it just felt so good to be there. So good. Fly home, Eagles. Fly home.
Make some noise one time for number 23, Tony Jefferson.
And Unk coming up big. You love to see it. Love to see it. Man, and this guy was a scout. This guy was a scout before. All right, let me go back to I was talking about the Hampton. There was his touchdown right there. Yeah, so it was just insane. It was insane, guys. And man, I'm still feeling that jubilation. We've had a lot of heartbreaking losses as Charger fans, at SoFi too, where, and my buddy Josh there, who you could see and you could hear in that video, that was his first time ever seeing a win at SoFi Stadium for the Chargers. Unbelievably. Because every year I take him to a game, but he always comes to the toughest game. Usually the Chiefs games. We always lose those games at SoFi. And then last year against the Ravens, which, another tough game, heartbreaking game. So to get the victory that way, with my buddy Josh there, who was having a tough time. He's got a family member dealing with terrible health issues. Man, you love to see it. You just love to see it. And leave your comments, guys. What you thought about the game. Any questions? But before the season, we had Charger podcasters saying we were going to get 9 wins. We're at 9 wins now, 9-4. They said we'd finish 9-8. I said, too low, guys, too low. They were like, the schedule is too hard. Look at these final games, and look what we're doing now, guys. I know it was doom and gloom after that Jags loss. We get the easy win against the Raiders, but then we really had to dig in there to win this game. It was a hard-fought game, a defensive battle. Jesse Minter had a great plan. We forced Jalen Hurts into 5 turnovers. And Philly played great defense. They did get away with some holding. There was a Oronde Gadsden play where he got held. No flag on the play. They were holding Ladd. Cooper DeJean had his arm on Ladd. He got away with it. That's fine. We won the game. We won the game. We didn't have to have big games from our wide receivers. They came up big when we needed them to. But December football, playoff football, you got to run the ball and play tough defense. And that's what we did. So, every team needs to watch out now. Because even Herbert with a broken hand, man, stiff arming guys, making the plays, running when he needed to, just insane. You had Harbaugh after the game saying this was up there with his wedding, with his children being born. It felt like a celebration, man, a celebration for Charger fans everywhere that we haven't had. We don't get to have very, very often. But the defending champions, we took them down in overtime. I'm not gonna lie, guys. It looked bleak at times. Especially when Philly came back, when Saquon Barkley had that 50-something yard touchdown, and Philly fans were going crazy. It did look a little scary there. I'm not gonna lie. And then going into overtime, but Cameron Dicker came up big, five field goals. He made a over 50 yards. Man, what can I say about this Charger team? Just so proud of these guys. And then, like I tweeted out, next week we have a chance to pretty much eliminate the Kansas City Chiefs from the playoffs if we can go in there and beat them in Kansas City. And they're not the juggernaut that they used to be. This team isn't as good as the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the Eagles, destroyed the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs are still reeling from that. They haven't recovered. And hey, there's new teams in the AFC West coming for them. You got the Chargers. You got the Broncos playing really well. They got a tough defense. Bo Nix is no Justin Herbert. He's not. He's a good quarterback, but Justin Herbert is the top quarterback in the AFC West now. You see Mahomes behind a bad offensive line like Justin Herbert, and what's Mahomes doing? He's losing games while Herbert's winning with no offensive line, pressured a record, 68% of the time. No quarterback's been pressured as much as Justin Herbert was last night, 68% pressure rate, and he wins the game. Just unbelievable. No other quarterback is doing that. You got, if Jalen Hurts was being pressured 68% of the time, it'd be a blowout loss. And you could see a big difference in the two quarterbacks. Philly would die to have a quarterback like Herbert. Any other team would. And he's just one of a kind. Just like the next guy we're going to talk about, Philip Rivers. Man, Rivers was one of my all-time favorite players. Like many of you, I'm sure he was one of your favorites. And it's funny, on the way to the game, me and my buddy Josh were talking about how Rivers is a finalist for the Hall of Fame and how he's deserving of being in the Hall of Fame because he's top 5 all time in passing yards. Because he got, he was a second away from going to the Super Bowl, playing the whole game on a torn ACL against the New England Patriots, against Tom Brady. They were beating them with Rivers with the torn ACL, playing out of his mind until Marlon McCree fumbles the ball at the end of the game, fumbles the game away, or else Rivers would have gone down in history as the only quarterback to go to the Super Bowl on a torn ACL. Maybe he wins the Super Bowl. Who knows? Maybe he wins a Super Bowl on a torn ACL and becomes a folk legend. If not for that Marlon McCree fumble there that has been infamous and has gone down in history. But Rivers at age 44, he's a grandpa, he's a coach. Does he still have it? He's still got it up here. He was one of the smartest players to play the game. The Colts are desperate. Daniel Jones was playing great. He tore his Achilles. He's going to be out for a while. They need a quarterback. I would love to see Rivers play again. Rivers is a competitor. He's fiery. He loves to say, gosh darn it. He doesn't swear, but he loves to light into guys. He loves to trash talk, and he's got the fire. The question is, does he still have the arm strength? He had a great arm, despite the strange throwing motion. He always had a great arm. So does he still have that? He never had the mobility, so you're not worried about him losing the mobility. But hey, take a chance on Rivers, and I'd love to see him again. But how crazy would it be to see the Chargers against Phillip Rivers in the playoffs? And what if it was at SoFi, man? Like, Rivers is a hero for so many of us Charger fans, and if we went up against him, it would feel so strange. It'd feel like the Twilight Zone. Like, how is Rivers going against us? You always felt like you'd always get that other shot with the Chargers to come back and win a Super Bowl. And what if he's doing it with the Colts? Just so strange. I had a guy in one of my fantasy football leagues last night text to the group. He's like, I'm picking up Phillip Rivers off the waiver wire, and that was a Raiders fan, mind you. So, everyone's got respect for Rivers. He's deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. The question is, can his body take it? Is he going to get beat up like Justin Herbert's getting beat up right now? The Colts have a better offensive line. They'll be able to protect him better. But it's going to be crazy to see what Herbert versus Rivers. I would love to see that. I think a lot of Charger fans would too. And I'd be out there yelling just like I was yelling for Hurts. Interception, throw an interception, Rivers. Yeah, because he did do that in some big games. I can't lie about that. He was a gunslinger. His hero was Brett Favre, who was the same way, who would throw deep bombs and didn't protect the ball like some quarterbacks do. And Rivers did that too. He'd throw, if the game was on the line, he'd throw a 50-50 ball, hoping his guy would get it rather than, taking a sack or, letting some running back fumble the ball away. He was going to take it in his own hands. And it never worked out for him, but he's still got a shot. And I'd love to see it, man. Seeing Rivers again on Monday Night Football, how could you not love to see that? But what do you guys think about this Charger season after this Philadelphia win? I mean, the highs and lows of this season. The fan base was so low after that Jags loss, and I tweeted out for everybody, hey, what if we beat the Eagles, man? Like, we're going to be going crazy, and we are. We're going to feel great with the chance to knock out the Kansas City Chiefs next week. I got to say, I respect the Chiefs for what they've done, the championships. A lot of their fan base is trash, though. I got to say, man, there are cool Chiefs fans, but then I've seen the other side of their fandom that are bandwagon guys. They're trash. They go beyond normal trash talk there. They like to boast about the rings like they did something themselves. They like to take shots at my family members. So stay classy, Chiefs fans. While you're losing, while you're feeling like the rest of us NFL has felt before when you're out of the playoffs. And Scotty here says we need receivers who can get open next year. I feel good about our receivers, Scotty. That was a problem against Philadelphia. I feel like they were holding our receivers a lot, like I mentioned before. It seems like great defenses get more leeway to do that. Houston, Denver. It seems like those teams, they do have great corners, but they do also get away with holding. So what do you do in that position? You got to run the ball to set up the play action. Herbert's obviously not 100%. He's that hand. He's missing some throws with that hand, and that's to be expected. I've had a broken finger, torn ligament there, so not quite the same. Herbert had the actual hand there broken, but it's hard to do anything with that broken hand. The amount of pain, not being able to grip the ball, it's difficult. So it's crazy Herbert's even going out there and doing that. And let's see. Scotty also says no Keenan next year if it means no snaps for Trey and KLS. That's an interesting that's an interesting topic, because Keenan is beloved by this fan base, and he's made so many big catches. But is he holding back our young guys, Trey Harris and KLS? Yeah. I mean, those guys aren't getting as many snaps, and KLS isn't even active on game days. So what do you do in that position? Do you bring Keenan back one more year on a team friendly deal, or do you say that thanks for all you've done, you've broken the record now, and it's time for these young guys? That's a tough call for Joe. What would you guys do? I think Scotty is leaning towards going with these young guys and seeing what they can do. Trey Harris is making big plays. He's making big catches when he's out there. He's blocking. But Keenan also, Keenan had a key block on the Marion Hampton touchdown opening the game. Keenan was out there blocking, and he helped spring Hampton open. So, Keenan can still contribute. Not, he's not the Keenan of old. We've seen flashes of it. We've seen some games where, especially that first game against Kansas City, where Keenan is he's still great, but he does have these games too where he has 1-2 catches. He's not getting as many snaps as some of the other guys. And let's see. Scotty's back. Everything starts with the offensive staff. I don't have a problem with Keenan being on the roster, but by no means should that mean no snaps for the young Bulls. Yeah, that's true. That it is the staff, and I think everyone would love to have Keenan back. But yeah, get these young guys involved more. I agree with that. In one off season, we completely transformed the offense, with this draft by getting Oronde Gadsden, by getting Trey Harris, and I know we haven't seen KLS do it in the real games, but he was huge in training camp when I was there. When you can watch the videos on my YouTube. KLS looked really good, like a deep threat that we've needed. But for a deep threat, you have to have both your tackles. You have to have, Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, to be able to throw the long bombs. And we haven't had those guys. So you're not going to be able to go deep to KLS. Scotty, love the content. Keep it up, brother. Stay blessed. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate all you Bolts fans out there. You guys have been great to me. I love the Bolt fam. Great people. I'm part of the Beach City Bolts in Costa Mesa. Patrick runs those groups. He's a big part of Electric Avenue. I love Thunder Alley, Electric Avenue. And I can't wait to see you guys. The final game against Houston. Can you believe it? There's only one more home game unless we get a playoff game at home, unless we really need Denver to trip up just one game. And then that last game against Denver is going to be huge, man. Denver plays, they play Green Bay next, I believe. If we can get Green Bay, one of these teams just to take down Denver, man. And then we got a shot. We got a shot at winning the AFC West and having a home game for the first time at SoFi Stadium. Unbelievable. And to think if we played against Phillip Rivers in that home game, man, the madness. It would be, I don't know, it would blow my mind. But yeah, you know, I want to go back to Jesse Minter. You know, that zone defense really worked against Jalen Hurts. It had him confused. We got all those, you know, the 4 interceptions on him, the fumble, and you know that Philly game plan. Saquon Barkley did have 100 yards, but they didn't make him that bell cow that he was last year. You know, he's not running the ball as effectively as he did when he had, you know, 2,000 yards. And that's a problem for them. You know, I don't see Philly getting back to the Super Bowl if they're going to play this way, if they're going to try to force feed AJ Brown the ball, who's a great receiver, Devontae Smith. But Hurts is not one of these quarterbacks that you can just sling the ball around. He dropped back to pass 40 times last night, and he's not that type of player. He's a great guy at the goal, at the tush push. He's great at running the ball. He can make, you know, key plays at key moments, but he's not a Justin Herbert that can take over the game with no offensive line, with your receivers not getting open, you know, with a broken hand. That's next level, you know. And you could see Charger fans after the game saying, you know, that's my quarterback. That's my quarterback, you know. And you just love to see it. And with Hampton back, you know, I think you guys know how huge that is, how that gives us a shot to be in these playoff games now, even with a bad offensive line. You know, it's discouraging when you see Bozeman let a guy go right up the middle and sack Herbert. But the way you mitigate that is you run the ball like you did last night with Hampton, with Vidal, with Herbert. You just keep running it, and we'll finally get that playoff monkey off our backs, man. And the sad thing for Herbert is, you know, even with no offensive line, even with a broken hand, with receivers not getting open, if this happens in a playoff game and they lose, it's going to be on Herbert again. And people are going to say he can't win the big game, you know, that Herbert is trash, that he's not a top, you know, one of the top tier quarterbacks. And it's simply not true, guys, you know, and we've seen that with Rivers. We saw Rivers be a top quarterback in this league, but he didn't have the team around him. And, man, it's crazy to think that a Jim Harbaugh team is just lacking the offensive line when he preaches, you know, tip of the spear offensive line. And we would have had it if the injuries didn't devastate, you know, both our tackles. We would have had a good enough offensive line. Yeah, the center position still needs to be upgraded. Yeah, Becton hasn't been all that he's cracked up to be. You know, you need to draft, like I say, you need to draft at least 3 linemen in this next upcoming draft. And we only have 5 picks, guys. So draft a center, draft a right guard, draft a swing tackle at the least, because you're going to need these guys, man. And these, you know, linemen don't grow on trees, and they're getting outrageous contracts. Average linemen are getting huge contracts these days. So you got to go draft. You know, people have talked about the Ravens center. Yeah, that would be great. Teams just don't let these guys walk, you know. They don't just let them walk, but they did just give a big deal to Mark Andrews. I was surprised because they're already cash strapped. So what are they going to do? You know, but hey, that's looking ahead. We're still right here, right now, with the chance to knock out the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all I want to think about right now. And, you know, we did it week 1 in Brazil in a hostile environment. You know, it's going to be hostile again in Kansas City, but we can do it. They're not the juggernauts that they used to be. Kelsey is a ghost of himself, dropping passes for interceptions. What do you have to be worried about with Kansas City? Rashee Rice, he's a great receiver. He's their lad McConkey. He is a weapon, but that running game can be stopped. Mahomes can throw more interceptions. That offensive line is leaky. You get through that line, you stop the run, we're beating the Kansas City Chiefs. You can believe that. And you would love to see it, man. I've talked on Twitter with Drew Tranquil's brother on there, great guy. After I talked about Kansas City losing the Super Bowl to Philadelphia, in that infamous video before of Tranquil saying, how much better Kansas City. I love it here. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else. I said, hey, would Tranquil rather be somewhere else while Kansas City is getting their butt whooped by Philadelphia? Would he rather be in LA? And his brother was like, no. And I just had to say, LOL, man. Good stuff. It's all fun and games, no hate with these guys. But Kansas City has dominated for so long. They've been the top. They've been the mountain that we've been trying to climb. And Sunday is the chance to finally take that over, man, to take over that division from them and to knock them out. But it's not going to be easy with Herbert in his broken hand. You see he's having trouble gripping the ball. Defenders are going to be slapping at that hand. Raiders players were playing dirty and trying to injure his hand more. And, the Chiefs may be doing that too. So how are you guys feeling about the Kansas City game? Do you think, we're so high off this Eagles game, man, how would you feel if we lost to Kansas City and they still had life to get back into this? It's an interesting thought, because then you're back to like, we still have some tough games against the Cowboys, against Denver, against Houston. You still need to find another win or two to get in these playoffs. And it's not going to be easy, even though we beat the champions, we knocked out the Eagles. Every game is going to be a dogfight, but you better believe this Jim Harbaugh team will be ready for it. And if Jesse Minter's defense comes to play like they did against the Eagles, I feel really good about our chances, guys, of even winning the AFC West. Man, but we're gonna have to run the table to have a chance at that. We're gonna need Denver to lose one game, just lose the game against Green Bay, lose the game against Jacksonville, and then we can take care of them. Bo Nix has never beaten us yet. So let's keep that streak going. And I don't know, how are you guys feeling? I'm just still over the moon after that win. I can't stop smiling. It's like that scene, 500 Days of Summer, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when he falls in love and the birds are singing, it suddenly becomes a musical and you're just happy, smiling, it's exactly like that scene, to wake up today as a Chargers fan, and man, this defense, Khalil Mack, Thule, Owe, I know Owe had the big penalty that, the offsides penalty that gave the Eagles life in overtime. But he also had a big sack. How many times have we seen Joey Bosa step out offsides, in key moments? You're going to need Owe with Mack, with Thule for pressure. You know, we need to get pressure on these teams. We need to stop the run. They're doing it inside. The guys are doing a great job too. Tart, you know, our linebackers, Denzel Perryman, still one of the hardest hitters in the league. You know, and you got guys just stepping up. Cam Hart, you know, still is always playing great, but and Dante Jackson with another big interception, man. This guy's been huge all year. He's been playing at a Pro Bowl level all year long, getting interceptions, making it hard on number one wide receivers. So what a pickup Dante Jackson was. You know, and man, that trade for Owe, and was it even bigger to spring up snaps for Tony Jefferson and RJ Mickens, both making big plays. Man, I just can't, you know, I can't overstate my excitement for this defense, for the way Justin Herbert's playing. You know, I will say my concern with Herbert is if he breaks that hand again and needs surgery again. You know, the only good thing about that is we have Trey Lance, one of the great backups. It seems like, you know, he went in for those few plays when Herbert first broke his hand, and he completed a tough 9-yard pass to Trey Harris. He had some scrambles. You know, the drive, he picked up about 45 yards on that drive, kept the drive going. You know, you see these teams like the Colts, they don't have backups. You know, you're going to 44-year-old guys off the street. So to have a backup like Trey Lance, who can run, who's got a cannon for an arm, who you know, who Harbaugh's system really works for a guy like Trey Lance. So you feel good about him. You never want Herbert to be injured. You know, he's the Superman. But you know, I've seen some Charger fans like Dean Thanos suggest, hey, let Herbert, you know, take a game off. Take a game or two off. Let Trey Lance just have the game. And it's an interesting concept. What do you guys think about that? You know, let Herbert heal while you put Trey Lance in there for these tough defenses like Houston, so that Herbert's not getting, you know, banged up more. The only thing with that is Justin Herbert's such a competitor. He would never, you know, he would never go for that. He wants to win at all costs, and you saw that last night. You saw what just a maniac he was, running the ball and stiff arming guys. You know, I recorded that play. I'm going to put it up on my YouTube later. Herbert's stiff arm with his broken hand, and I'll have more highlight plays like that up on my YouTube. You can count on me. Putting all these highlights up. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. And I have a special subscription option on my YouTube. I'll give you guys exclusive content. Let me know what you guys want. Special Charger clips. I'm there every training camp, you know, giving you the highlights. I can't wait to do that again. This team is just so close to the Super Bowl. You know, we're almost there. You know, beating a team like Philadelphia shows the potential that the Chargers have without an offensive line. Crazy to say. You know, we have the team that can still do it. But thank you guys for joining me. Until next time, bolt up, guys. Bolt up.